For the majority of the webinar, I was focused on the threat landscape and how you can protect yourself against bad actors and certain threats out there. But let's start talking about, when an incident has actually occurred, how do you respond to that? How do you manage that particular situation? And the thing is, severe security incidents will happen eventually. So it's not a question of if, but when. And so my question to the audience is, are you prepared for that inevitable worst case scenario? We spoke about the common business risks such as natural disasters, and I'm pretty confident that, should there be a major fire or flood, most businesses have a plan in place and the staff have been routinely trained on how to respond and recover from that event. But are you doing the same for cybersecurity incidents? If you're not, here's why you should. So, the statistics are quite telling in terms of the impact from cyber incidents. Um, as you can see from the first entry there, only 8% of businesses that pay a ransom get all their data back in return, and that's from a Sophos study. So essentially, 8 of 100 businesses that pay the ransom actually get all the data back. So what we're saying is, you know, 50, 60% of data being returned to the organizations is more common, and that still leaves you open to liability from a regulatory perspective, but also to further attacks by the bad actors. And so we've seen some of these statistics before. 1.4 million average recovery costs. Ransomware is only 20%. That means 80% of your cost is actually dealing with that attack. So even if you do pay the ransom, that's only 20% of the distance. You've got, for the time, effort, man hours, and actually responding to that threat. And as you can see here, average downtime 21 days. So what would an hour of downtime cost your business? Is that 50? Is that, 50 pounds? Is that 5,000, 10,000, 50K, even more? And what would be the impact to your business if you're down for 3 weeks or more? So some of the examples that I previously covered, some of the organizations were down for a month, sometimes even two. And statistics show that most companies that have had a cyber reported a related incident, SMBs particularly, they don't survive beyond 6 months. And so incident response is quite critical. And what I want to do is introduce a concept left and right of boom. So we'll start with this timeline at the bottom, which includes those three pillars of cybersecurity as well as business, which is technology, people, and process. And as we progress from left to right, you will see that the dependence on technology wanes significantly, but the reliance on people increases remarkably the further into the process we are. So left of boom is essentially before the incident. So as you can see, everyone's high-fiving, business is doing well, there are no concerns, no issues. But when that boom incident does occur, ransomware, what the case may be, everything to the right is how you actually respond to that. And it's pretty involved when you think about what's involved in ransomware attacks. So, you know, when you get that message from the threat actor saying, hey, your files are encrypted, or you've got, 1, 2, 3 days to pay the ransom, or I'm going to publish all of this on the internet, have you given thought to how you would handle that situation? If that occurred now, are you prepared to deal with that particular situation? If you think about Royal Mail as well, too, they had to very quickly after the breach, put out this message on Twitter saying, hey, we are temporarily unable to dispatch items to overseas destinations. Please do not post any export items. And so are you, do you have a plan in place in terms of, how you communicate with the media? How do you communicate internally to the employees so that they know what they should and shouldn't say, for example, or potentially panic and leak information, which could damage your reputation? What about your customers? Okay, have you got a robust plan in place so that you can deal with those irritated customers who expect essentially the problem to resolve instantaneously? And so if you don't have the right approach in place, you can easily make rush decisions that will result in costly missteps. If you don't have the right incident response tools, then you won't have that visibility and understanding of the incident, which is then going to slow down the resolution of the issue. And so when you think about incident response is there to, as you see, the goal of it is to minimize the impact of that attack, offer rapid recovery from the incident, and also to limit that interruption to the organization. Now, most MSPs generally have an incident response plan in place to cope with any disruption, but most SMBs, to the contrary, are ill-equipped to either craft or respond to an incident in a timely manner. And so, let's have a chat about, what an incident response life cycle looks like and why it's so important. So firstly, it starts with preparation and planning. So preparing is one of the most important and essential incident response activities that can be undertaken. So essentially, this is where you are prepared to respond to the worst things that can happen to your business. And preparation is key to the survival of your business and involves investing work in identifying the start of an incident, how to recover, how to get everything back to normal, and how to create and establish security policies. Next, we've got the detect and analysis phase. So this is where, you've got this team that's going to analyze the symptoms, those indicators of compromise that might identify an incident, and then determining whether systems or data has been breached. So in order to stop an incident, you first need to detect and identify any irregular indicators of activity within the environment. From there, you've got containment, eradication, and recovery. So containment is going to encompass any number of actions you take after the initial investigation of the incident to stop the spread and understand the method of attack. Your eradication after the containment, further eradication efforts are often required in order to completely remove the underlying components of the incident and to mitigate any identified vulnerabilities that were exposed during the incident. And your recovery obviously is key as well. So this is where you need to have implemented a recovery process to restore and return any compromised hosts, applications, and networks, getting them back up and running as normal. So this might have to include, rebuilding infected systems, replacing compromised files, resetting passwords, patching system, network security as well too. And finally, post-incident activity. So this is actually an essential part of responding to a cybersecurity incident, and that is to document, communicate, and build upon the learned lessons. So this step is going to provide, an opportunity, excuse me, to have those conversations with key stakeholders and the workforce to, reflect on the overall experience and learn from the situation to better respond to future security events. Um, and so, fortunately, Leaf IT is able to provide incident response services that's going to allow for that 24/7, 365 protection for worst case security scenarios. So, what that means is, as you can see on the screen, that's direct access to expert incident response analysts. It means there's real time management and guidance to contain and remediate those worst case incidents. And it means that we've got the recovery procedures that will determine the extent of that compromise, gain insight into that process and the tactics, and then help you to be able to better defend your business. And lastly, having those post-incident reports and recommendations. So there's actually a 30-day post-incident monitoring of the environments to prevent further reinfection. So Leaf IT's incident response service is going to be able to minimize the impact of the cyber attack. It's going to offer rapid recovery, and it's going to limit the business interruption or loss so that your business continues to thrive in the face of adversity. And with that, I want to thank you very much for attending and participating in this webinar, and I hope you've found the information extremely useful.